Hello, Facebook family and friends. Today is day 4 of 21. It's so good to be back. It's been so long since I was live regularly, and I gotta tell you, it just feels absolutely phenomenal. Happy Sunday. I know that as Sunday, it will probably be one of those situations where everybody's going to watch this on replay, and that's awesome because I hope that you're out enjoying time with your family and friends today. Okay, so we'll get right to it. Today's topic is feeling lost. Hey, Ken, good to see you. Love you. Thank you for popping in, buddy. Hello. Okay, so feeling lost. That's kind of a tough one. A lot of people often talk about, I feel really lost. And it kind of ties into what we were talking about the last couple of days with confusion and overwhelm, where when I feel lost, it's kind of like I might feel confusion about something. I might feel overwhelmed with these feelings, but I'm feeling kind of like I have nowhere to turn or no options, right? So lost is really, again, part of that uncertainty like confusion is, but it's much more than that. And it's even almost similar to the overwhelm in that you're not lost, Ken. No, you found me and I found you. That, see, I got all distracted. It's Sunday. That it's kind of like overwhelm. But with overwhelm, you have these choices, right? You could prioritize and make these choices. But with feeling lost, it's much bigger than that. And it's almost like you're feeling alone. And the feeling lostness is also about the expectations, just like what we talked about yesterday in overwhelm. So I have all these feelings. I don't know what to do with them. I may not label it confusion. I may not label it overwhelm, but the feeling and the thoughts that I have then are that I'm lost. I don't know what to do in this situation. I don't know what choice to make. I feel alone. And I feel like I don't have anybody to support me and help me through, because what we're really asking is to figure out a way to sort through it, right? And so what happens in feeling that lostness then is there's no clarity whatsoever. At least with confusion, we had some clarity. Remember the tangled vines and we could kind of see the path. But when someone's feeling lost, they're really feeling kind of, imagine being lost in that forest. You can't see the path. And even when you do see a path and you start walking on that path to get out of the forest, it doesn't lead anywhere. So when you're feeling alone then too, which is often part of feeling lost, you don't have anybody to go to say, hey, can you point me in the right direction? Which way should I go? How could I get out of here? Really, how can I get out of these feelings? How can I get out of these thoughts? So then what happens is it's almost like a shutdown. It's almost like internally, we're not quite giving up, right? We're not quite giving up, but we feel so kind of shut down within that lost feeling that we kind of give up. I know that doesn't kind of make sense, right? You're not really giving up, but you're kind of giving up. You still want to move forward, but you're not sure how. And it's way beyond confusion, and it's way beyond overwhelm. And so we start disconnecting from that place inside of ourselves. Hello, Pam. Love you, darling. So thank you for dropping in. So good to see you. I'm so glad you're here. And so in that lost feeling, when we kind of shut down, we're not really giving up yet, but we're getting there. We're getting to that point where we don't really know what to do. We don't really feel like we have anybody to turn to. We don't necessarily know our choices. We can't see clearly, or we can see pretty clearly, but we're not seeing the path out of that lost feeling. So I'd love to hear, hi, Al. Oh my gosh, so good to see you, buddy. Thank you for dropping and popping in. And so in that lostness, I'd love to hear, like, have you guys ever, felt lost with anything? the loss of a loved one, the loss of a pet, feeling, and I'm not saying, I'm saying loss, I'm not saying lost, right? Like being lost in a forest. But oftentimes when we go through a situation where we don't know which way to turn, we don't know how to deal with our feelings and our thoughts, what happens is then, because we're kind of shutting down, we don't really appropriately kind of deal with whatever the situation is. And this often comes up a lot when people are dealing with some kind of loss, with an S on the end, loss. I feel lost without him or her. I feel lost without my pet. I feel lost that I lost my job. I feel lost that we're moving and now I don't have these same friends. So it's that knownness, just like with confusion, where there was an issue with certainty and a jumbled mess of thoughts. When you're dealing with feeling lost, the piece that is really critical and important is that I'm afraid of the uncertainty. I'm afraid of that unknownness. And because I don't see the choices and the path and the way out, and I don't feel like I have anybody to really turn to, or I do, but I'm not getting, like I'm not seeing the path, then I start to feel lost. And then it makes it even more difficult to make choices. So you can feel all the confusion and overwhelm in the world, but if you're starting to shut down and you're feeling that lost feeling, you're going to have a really hard time figuring out what your choices are, and then even being able to prioritize them or take them in small bites of chunk of time, like with overwhelm or even with confusion, and we can try to find clarity. So hello, Dawn. Oh my gosh, it's so good to see you, love. Thank you for popping in. And so if we're afraid to move forward, then imagine what happens. Again, let's go back to this kind of forest example. I'm out in the forest. This actually happened. Okay, so I'll share this with you. Many, many years ago, when I was doing my postgraduate work, and I was working for a youth service agency, there was a co-therapist and I who handled 6th, 7th, and 8th graders in a specialized program we had created. And we used to take them on field trips all the time. It was so much fun. Well, one time we went to our local kind of forest preserve area where this was a sanctioned kind of nature preserve, and it was huge, right? So we took them and they told us very clearly, stay on the path. We're like, okay, we'll stay on the path. But what happened was some parts of the path became overgrown a little bit, right? Because they didn't want you to touch anything. They don't want you to move any limbs that fall, or when leaves kind of, fall over the path. And they were really cautious and careful about clearing the paths often. But there were sections that were missed sometimes, and the animals, the wildlife are flittering through and creating a little bit of a mess on the path, right? And we have this like 36th, 7th, and 8th graders. And so somehow we got off the path. And literally, I'm not kidding you, we were lost for like 4 hours. We could not find the path back to the main exit entrance. We could not find our way. And we'd find paths, but then they would kind of dead end. And so I remember my co-host and I, or my co-therapist and I, kind of stepping to the side at one point. This was probably a couple of hours into it. And the kids were just, they were starting to get really nervous, and they were starting to get a little bit scared. And we did a great job of keeping them calm and reassuring them, like, look, we're in the middle of kind of a city, of a big town. We're not like lost in the woods of New Mexico or Alaska or something like that, right? And the wildlife that was there were no bears. I mean, so there was really nothing to be afraid of. But my co-therapist and I kind of, went to the side and said, wow, we're worried. We're really concerned. We're truly lost here. We cannot find the perimeter. It was, like I said, an absolutely enormous nature preserve. It was totally forested, and we could not find the edges to find the community or the road or a neighborhood. And so we're like, okay, let's take a breath. let's just step back for a second and systematically take this step by step. Now, we couldn't really see the sun through the forest top, so we couldn't really figure out if we were going north, south, east, or west. But we just kind of had to step back and go, wait a minute. So what we did, and this is going to be one of the suggestions. Hello, Sheila Love. Thank you for popping in. It's so good to see you. Thank you so much. So what we did is kind of one of the first solutions that I'm going to give you, which I'll explain it in a minute, but I'm going to tell you what we did first, is we kind of sat silent for a few minutes and we listened to all of the sounds around us. And even though it was a densely forested area and we couldn't hear cars or anything like that, we just kind of tuned in to our intuition and to our gut and to our kind of soul level knowingness, right? And we said, the critical thing here is we get these kids out of this forest. And so we just sat for a few minutes, we listened to the sounds, we trusted what our gut told us, we retraced in our mind how we had come into the forest and the directions we had turned and twisted upon, and said, we think it's this way. And so we gathered up the kids and we started walking, and we walked for like another half hour, and we eventually got to the edge of this forest preserve. Now, imagine, I don't know if it's square, rectangular, whatever it was, but imagine it's rectangular. And imagine the entrance is here. We were way on the opposite side. So when we got out into a cul-de-sac of a community neighborhood, we had to go back out to the road and walk probably a mile before we got back to the entrance. And we came into the entrance from the front way, from the street side, right? And I remember we went into the building and they went, like, you guys went in there. Like, how are you coming from this direction? And we said, well, we got lost. And we really didn't know which way to go. So one of the very first solutions that you can do is when you're feeling lost. Connie, love, thank you, love, welcome. Thank you so much for popping in. Is sit silent for 5 minutes. If you're feeling lost or you know someone who feels lost, offer up to them, invite them to sit silently for 5 minutes. Go to a park, go home, sit, not go home, go home, sit at home, like here in my chair right now, let's say, go to a park, wherever it feels like that person or you can get a sense of being able to tune in. And then listen to all of the sights, the sounds, feel the grass under your feet or your hands. Touch base with what you're really feeling and what it really means to you to feel lost. Hello, Jillian. Hello, Alamnata. Oh my gosh, Alamata, I'm so sorry. I cannot see anything with these glasses sometimes. It's probably time. I feel lost with my sight. Okay, I'm not making fun. These are serious topics. But again, I've promised you that each day that I come live is just going to be a short little snippet. We're not going to go very deep into each thing because it's not therapy. It's just some little heads up on the emotions of this adulting roller coaster that we're on that can sometimes trip us up. And it's important to offer up a few suggestions on how to kind of manage through. But we have to have fun too, because we're human, and this is serious stuff sometimes when it holds us back, right? So sit silent for 5 minutes, somewhere where you can feel like you can tune in to the present moment. Listen with all of your senses, and then touch base with yourself inside. And ask, let me think about this. What do I want as opposed to what anyone else wants for me? What do I want as opposed to what anyone else wants for me? Because again, remember, this ties back a bit to the expectations. If I have expectations about myself, or if other people have expectations about me, I may have a very difficult time not feeling clarity in that. And if it's a clarity of a certain kind where I'm holding on to these expectations, I may go into that place where I'm feeling very lost within that. and not able to see that for myself. So if you can kind of sit, oh, and that holds true even for like friends or bosses or things like that. So if you can sit silent for 5 minutes and get in touch with that part of yourself, then you may have more clarity. Now, if you're struggling with that clarity, then ask what would need to happen to find that clarity. Okay, so like when we were lost in the forest with the kids, my co-therapist and I sat there for a few moments. We went silent into ourselves. We listened to the sights and the sounds. We listened to our gut instinct and our soul that was guiding us, even if we didn't know we could trust it because we'd been walking around for hours and we weren't finding the edges of the forest to get back to the community. And once we kind of were able to touch base, we felt like we had a clarity. But let's say we had done that, which is exactly what I'm inviting you to do, and you don't find the clarity. Well, then the next question, the next step would be, what would have to happen for me to find the clarity? Because it may be something as simple as setting aside an expectation that you have or that someone else has about you in order for you to help get in touch and in tune with that answer for yourself. Jean, hello, love. Thank you so much for popping in. Now, write them all down. Write down whatever it is that you've come to when you ask these questions. Write down, what is it that I want as opposed to anybody else? Write down what would have to happen in order for me to find clarity. Stop listening to others' opinions and their expressions of who they think you should be or who they think you need to be. The whole idea behind sitting silent with yourself for just 5 minutes is being able to reach into that place within you that already knows and has the answers. And I call that the voice of your heart, as opposed to the voice in your head that can chitter chatter away and tell you you're not good enough, or you're lost, or you're overwhelmed, or all of these things that can stop us and get in the way, right? Now, if you don't like writing, then voice record it. My God, our cell phones nowadays have amazing apps on them for voice recording. You can always look at Audacity too, which is a free audio program that you can download on your computer or your laptop for being able to voice record something. So let's say you're feeling this intensity of some emotion. In this case, today's topic is feeling lost. And you're struggling and you're like right here, like I am in my office now, and you pop open Audacity and you hit record, and on your little mic here, or if you have a whatever, however you would speak into it, and you sit silent, and then you just start rambling your thoughts and your feelings, like you just start speaking out those things that are inside. Trust me when I tell you that this is a very powerful little simple set of exercises to help you find some of that clarity and remove some of that uncertainty. Okay? Now, let's say you do all that, because here's the third little solution. Let's say you do all that. You have sat silently for a while. You've tuned in. You feel like you're in touch with the kind of your gut and that instinct, and you're looking for that clarity to kind of figure that way out of that feeling lostness, and you still aren't getting that clarity. The final question to ask is, what am I afraid of if I had that clarity? Because sometimes what happens is some of the things that we feel and we think give us what I call a secondary gain. And it's not, I call it like I invented this. I mean, this is no new information, guys. But it's a secondary gain. And so it's like I'm getting a secondary benefit by continuing to think and feel this way. Now, our logical mind would tell us, why would I want to feel this way? Why would I want to hold on to this piece? I mean, I desperately want to get out of the forest. Why would I hold on to being lost in the forest with these children when my whole goal is to get them out? Well, sometimes in that kind of situation, it's pretty clear cut. We need to get them out of the forest, right? When nightfall comes, it will get colder. We don't have a lot of food left or water. But in most situations, that's not the case for us. We're not actually physically lost like that. We're just feeling lost inside of ourselves or with a decision or an experience that we're having. And so if we were to then kind of take a look at what am I afraid of if I found that clarity, there's often an answer in that as well. So, you know, it's not necessarily always knowledge. It's not necessarily feeling lost like we did in the forest. It doesn't have to be that extreme. It could be something as simple as responsibility. I have to step up. Someone's expecting something of me, or I'm expecting something of myself, and I don't really know how to kind of maneuver through. So just step back and ask yourself then, what would I be afraid of if I had that clarity and could move away from that lostness? So I hope that helps a little bit. I hope that these 4 days so far are giving you some wonderful little tips and tools and insights on how to kind of manage this adulting roller coaster. I am so excited to be here, and I'm just so thrilled that you guys are all showing up and supporting and loving on me as much as I love on you. And I'm just so grateful that you're here. And so if you have any questions or comments about today's topic, or you want clarification on anything, or you're feeling lost in my explanations even, absolutely drop me a comment below. If you're interested in the MP3 of these entire 21 days that will be edited so it'll be smooth for each day, make sure that you pop me off your email, whether below or by a private message, so that I can get that MP3 to you for free, of course, when it's done. I am honored to be here. I love you all so much. I will be back tomorrow at, let me double check and make sure that I'm pretty sure it's 2 o'clock tomorrow as well. Let's see. Yep, 2 o'clock tomorrow. And the topic for tomorrow is stuck. Feeling stuck. Oh my God, that's a big one, right? I don't know about you guys, but I know I have felt stuck many, many times before. So, and that's a fun one too. So it's a difficult one, but it's a fun one. So thank you so much for being here. I love you all. I hope to see you live tomorrow. If you want to catch me live and not miss it, make sure that you turn on your live notifications for me. And, you know, I'll show up right in front of your face right at 2. So I love you all. Thank you. Have a beautiful, blessed rest of your Sunday. I'll see you tomorrow. Ciao for now.